It's a fertile base for a terrorist attack on America, a dirt-poor, landlocked country with harsh terrain and hostile Islamist forces in control of much of it. That's not just a description of Afghanistan in the years before September 11th, it's also the situation today in Mali. And now the U.S. and others are planning to reclaim lawless northern Mali in the next act of the war on terrorism. Sudarshan Raghavan has been reporting from Mali and joins us now from East Africa in Nairobi, Kenya. Sudarshan, thanks for joining us. The situation is basically that the country has been split between north and south, and I wonder how that happened and what the situation is now given that.
That's correct. What happened was that in March, you had Tuareg separatists aided by hardline Islamists and Al-Qaeda militants, and it all came amid a military coup that basically destabilized the government in Bamako. By June, the Islamists and Al-Qaeda militants had essentially pushed out the Tuareg separatists and have basically taken control of the north, which is a vast territory the size of Texas. What the Islamists have done is basically create an Afghanistan or Somalia-like state where they have imposed harsh Islamic Sharia laws on the local population. Women have been ordered to cover up fully from head to toe. Alcohol is forbidden. So is satellite television. Any sort of, and music as well. Any sort of semblance of the West. And they have basically handed out justice in the form of amputations, public whippings, stonings. So things are pretty grim for the local population in the north today.
Yeah, and it's worth noting a couple things. This is quite a change. I mean, Timbuktu in northern Mali was a tourist destination until just a couple years ago, so it's been a pretty rapid change. What is the U.S. role going to be here, and who else is helping out?
Actually, even as early as this year, Timbuktu was a Western tourist destination. You know, been around since found the 5th century, and it was long a center of Islamic learning. So it's quite a tragedy what's happened in Timbuktu. Now, what the Americans are doing now is actually they are after months of hesitation, they're now actively pushing for a military intervention. But at the same time, there is a reluctance of the U.S. to act immediately. Probably going to take several months. Perhaps even until mid next year or late next year before a military intervention can happen to liberate northern Mali.
And can we talk quickly about partners that the U.S. or France have on the ground in Mali? Because we're not even allowed to support the government because it's not democratically elected. They may not have the firepower to reclaim the north. So who does it, and how does that happen, and to what extent are we even able to partner with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. What the U.S. could do is support Mali's neighbors, basically a regional body that has actually agreed last month to send 3,300 troops into northern Mali. And right now, all they're waiting for is some sort of a UN approval, UN Security Council approval to initiate all of this. And this way, the U.S. can funnel aid through them. And rather than providing direct aid to Mali in the event that elections have not been held ahead of a military intervention.
We've both made this comparison to Afghanistan. Mali seems like another great place to stage terrorism. It's sparsely populated. It's, in a lot of swaths of it, a big stretch of sand. I wonder how you go after these hardliners without just chasing them around the desert kind of indefinitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question, and most analysts would say that's sort of inevitable. I mean, we're seeing that currently happening in Somalia. In fact, many people say that a model for a military intervention in northern Mali would be modeled after Somalia. But what you're seeing in Somalia now is the militants have basically gone underground. They still control much of the countryside. And there's a bit of a cat and mouse game going in which they get pushed out of one place, they emerge in another place, and the fear is that northern Mali could actually end up like that.
All right, Sudarshan, testing the limits of the internet and Skype for us. Thanks for doing it, and thanks for your reporting.
All right, you're welcome. All right.